Okay, it's Brian. It's Wednesday. It's Mama Kitty, of course. What are you doing here? Oh yeah? Well, you're going to help prove my point here in a second. So if you want to stick around, you can. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the stream. Hey, Fix It. What's up? Just mentioned you on Twitch, or Twitter, as a matter of fact, as somebody to watch as a streamer. I think Tiberius was mentioning something on Twitter, and I said, hey, hit up Fix It, hit up, Taggart, hit up, GoPro, hit up Tibbs. They have great content. And so I was actually looking that up for something else, which I'll talk about here in a second, but I'm glad to see you. Glad to see you. It's Wednesday. I was supposed to be on yesterday, but I'm just, I've got a fair bit of anxiety coming up because of the trip to Dublin I'm supposed to be on. I would like to say that things are better at work. It's a thing where I don't feel like I'm being useful at work or making impact. So I need to have this Dublin meeting with my management. I won't call him a boss, he's manager, to talk about that and ways that I can be more impactful, because I'm not feeling it right now. Feel like a ticket jockey, feel like, glorified help desk, which nothing wrong with help desk. If anything, it makes me appreciate help desk more, because they do a very important function at work. It's just not the function I want to do. So, no, I appreciate that. Yeah, thanks, Fix It. I do hope that it's helpful. I'm gonna fly in on Sunday morning, Dublin time, which will be extremely early Pacific time. So, they're all supposed to get in around the same time, but I'm really not feeling the, hey, I want to go hang out with y'all on a Sunday. I'm just going to go walk around and get lost in Dublin and then try to find my way back to the hotel. So, well, she left. Damn. Okay. Well, Mama Kitty will be back shortly. So, oh, you know what? Something I don't do enough of here. Kaelwyn, thank you for following. Also, Cooper T, thank you for subscribing. Have you tried turning it on and off again? Mama Kitty would probably tend to not like me trying to find her on-off switch for that. So, yeah, that would be a bit unfortunate for her if I was doing that. So, oh yeah, my billiards. Okay. So yeah, but yeah, so. Got a few topics, not just news, but I had something that came up on Twitter because I was hunting those tweets up, looking for Justin LZ and a couple of things. So there's one of the topics I added in here for this was threat modeling, right? I love me some threat modeling. I love the fact that we try to figure out what if. It's almost like a game, right? When we're sitting here playing a game, and I've seen a lot, not just in threat modeling, but like if you watch Critical Role or High Rollers or any of the actual play D&D stuff, you start seeing the characters or the people who are playing the characters in the game, the stars, the talent, if you will. They start a course of action, and then they, oh crap, what if this happens, or what if that happens, and you. Especially when you start seeing when they have options, right? At a higher level play, they start, oh, well, I can do this, or I can do that. Well, what if we do this and then I can do that? And they're trying to find the best way around it when, they're trying to figure out what the DM is actually going to pull on them that would cause them to, TPK or whatever. And in a lot of ways, like you've seen with, what do we call that? Hold on a second, got to get on. Back doors and breaches. It's a card game about incident response, which, it's various what if scenarios that can be done. It's not very good. It's not very good adhesive there. Okay. These are NRFB, not removed from box or not removed from foil. So they're, like Pokemon cards, they're probably fairly rare or something in there. So, Anyway, to my point, sometimes in both actual play D&D and in real life infosec threat modeling, we get things wrong, or we miss the thing that we're trying to do, right? In this case, don't mind me, I'm over here. Hello. Yeah, so Justin, who is CTO at Trusted Sec, popped up on the 17th with this question, which 17th would be, what, Sunday morning or my time? No, Monday morning my time. He said, do InfoSec people hate smart locks who put this much diligence? Oh, no, wait. Wrong one. I realize InfoSec hates technology. Do we like smart locks for homes? Because he's trying to find a smart lock, right? And I saw this and I was like, man, what kind of response is he going to get from all of this, you know? And because it's like, you know, we do hate technology. He's not wrong there. But so he asked about any smart locks that people like. And, you know, I have a smart lock on my front door, but I haven't fully set it up yet because I think it's buggy. So I actually need to take it off and put the correct one on. But the discussions that he had, and I was like, oh, let me read through this. And there's a lot of them. And, you know, basically they were like, oh, you know, I don't trust any IoT stuff. I don't have any IoT stuff in my house. And everybody was like, you know, and to this point, to this Electrical Monday, I think some people have a hard time doing realistic risk analysis. Someone's going to break in, more likely to use a brick than a flipper to do so. And I think there was a couple of, what was it? Where is it? There was a meme that somebody put up about a rock and a flipper, and it was like, which one is more likely to break into your house, the rock or the flipper? And it was pretty good. So there were some people who actually put some legitimate, you know, locks on there, like the Z-Wave models here, for instance, assuming you have a hub, if you use Z-Wave, which is a Zigbee implementation. There's other ones. Yeah, see, I don't trust any lock, but I leave my home unlocked and unguarded aside from a hamster for any period of time for a day or so. The discussion wasn't so much about what the locks were. It was, oh, here's why the locks are bad and here's why you shouldn't have locks. And then it was like, you know, starting a discussion that just, I mean, as you can see, it went and it went and it went and it went. And it was just, you know, you can almost tell the more pragmatic people in the industry, like, you know, folks like Snipe, who said we have an August door lock in the US. She has since moved to Portugal, I believe. She actually lived in San Diego, but I never got a chance to see her before she left. So yeah, there was a lot of that. Hey, you know, lock picks are a thing, and you know, all it takes is a good foot in the door. And I don't, you know, there was a couple of folks that said, I don't trust any IoT devices. I don't have them in my house. And I found that was a little on the unrealistic side. Everybody has smart devices, whether or not they use them, that's the point. But yeah, it was, it looks like some people actually deleted their posts, because I don't see some of them. Yeah, some electronic ones might be decent if the manufacturer actually has people with lock experience doing the design, but I tested a couple myself. But yeah, I mean, it was just interesting to see, you know, people didn't tell him what might be a good lock, because one, they don't have them, or two, they were just, you know, I don't know why they were answering if they didn't have a lock in there. They just kind of threw out a non sequitur. And I, you know, it's probably social media. I understand, but it was interesting to see some of these. And then, you know, Justin follows up with, if they hate smart locks, how much diligence have they put into their garage door openers? Because everybody's got a garage door opener, even if they don't have an IoT lock or what have you. Most of the garage door openers I know of now are IoT based. So like MyQ or what have you. Unless you buy a dumb one, but you still have a blooper. So you're still gonna have a box that you gotta push, or you set up, like with most smart cars, you have the system in your car that will emulate the the push button box, which will open the doors for you. And, Jake Williams and them coming in saying impressed by the gymnastics and threat modeling random things in their lives. I think a lot of our threat modeling, in many cases, we try to assume the worst, which is not wrong, but I think we forget how people actually use these things or where they'll be set up, especially for physical devices like locks, or other protective mechanisms. If you're going to set up exactly, fix it. I hate to show this picture because we spent a good deal of money on a security door for our house because we want to be able to open the doors for ventilation in our house. And as you can see, this is our security door, and this is our door, and it's open. And, the security door keeps people from opening the door and doing nefarious shit to us. And when Justin posted the Twitter thing about, people having unrealistic ideas about physical security, I took a look and I was like, well, which one is more likely to get into my house, the smart lock on my security door or a rock on the window right here? And I had to laugh because it was like, oh, yeah, exactly. It's like we don't have bars on that window, a nice rock, which, not this rock specifically, which, is a fairly large boulder, but, we have ready-made rocks in our in our front yard that are perfect size to make this window completely non-functional in this case. So I had to laugh. I mean, and it really depends on your risk, right? You think that people will not crack a window or, break a window to fix its point. Everybody has windows. If you leave your window open and you have a little, plastic mesh screen thing like my windows have here, I'm on the second floor, obviously, or first floor for you folks in the US or in the EU and everywhere else. But it's like, you can either take that out or you can just, cut it with a knife and you're done. So I found that humorous, especially after Justin had posted this thing about, which one is more likely to happen. Would it be a rock or a flipper zero? And I was like, damn, I suck. But I've never, we have a lock on this door that is smart. But yeah, it was just interesting to see some of the people who threat model these things, and I think I've said it before. It's like we're in danger of being considered Luddites, especially some of these folks here who were talking about, some of them are like, haha, I have Chomp 1 and Chomp 2 here. You have other physical controls being dogs or alarms or what have you. And yeah, see, the risk of someone breaking in by busting a regular lock or kicking the door down is greater than someone hacking my smart lock. I'll keep my smart locks. They make our lives easier. I also have a garage door opener. So I think sometimes we forget to ask specific questions when we're doing things like threat models or about how it's going to be used. I mean, it's great, especially I think it was Miss Berlin, Mr. Betcher, and I, we were talking about when the best practices take too much time, and the best practices are actually the things that we're now having to protect, like your firewalls, your VPNs, your all of the things that make your coconut for your network secure, right? If they breach the coconut, everything on the inside is gone, right? Instead of making like a brick or you have an egg, a coconut, or a brick, right? And if the best practices are what you're actually spending more time patching, are they really best practices? Yeah, it was just interesting to read through some of this. Let me refresh this. Anybody who follows Hacking LZ will be able to appreciate that. And yeah, it's just an interesting bit there. I won't post the picture of my house, obviously. The those are my ugly shoes there. You see there in the reflection in the mirror. Those are my Lokai flip flops. But yeah. The other thing is, I actually, this is a kind of a real world problem that I was reading through. So there's a security conference in San Diego called NDSS. And NDSS stands for, thanks, Fix-It, appreciate that. NDSS is, that's not what I wanted. It is some, Network and Distributed Security Systems Symposium. It was a, let me close that. So this is a story about, or this is a YouTube video. It's about 20 minutes long, about these folks who are giving a talk about exploiting sequence number leakage and TCP hijacking in NAT-enabled Wi-Fi networks. So if you are running a network, the discussion and the white paper that come with it are, so there's a bunch of people on this article from Tsinghua University. There's also George Mason and Southeast University. Don't know where Southeast University is, but George Mason, I forget where George Mason, I thought George Mason was in like Virginia. George Mason University, yeah, Virginia. Fairfax County, Virginia, Northern Virginia, near Washington, D.C. So there you go. It's in the Southeast. Hey, Age of Music. Yeah, Southeast University's in the Southeast. Thank you, Age of Music. I've got something actually you might, well, I don't know if you'll like it, but it's kind of interesting. I found it on Hacker News, but let me go see Southeast University. Okay, so Southeast University is a private university in Bangladesh. It's in Bangladesh. Okay. But they also say it's one of the universally influential universities in China. So which one is it? Is it this Southeast University or is it this Southeast University? There's two different Southeast universities. I'm going to assume because of the person's name. You know what? I shouldn't assume, but I'm gonna make a snap judgment. I'm thinking it's this one right here. Yeah, the one in China. Yeah, probably. You're correct there. Age. Thanks. Yeah. I think you're right about that one. So they gave a talk at this NDSS, which is in San Diego. I should have went. I actually had thought about going. It was from 26th February to 1 March. It was on, I believe, UCSD campus, which is literally 10 minutes from my house. And they have a lot of different kinds of talks. They have a whole channel based on it. But so I was listening to this, and the white paper that comes with it, they were talking about how they were able to exploit the number leakage. But when you read through, they said, we uncover a new side channel vulnerability in the widely used NAT port preservation strategy and an insufficient reverse path validation strategy of Wi-Fi routers, which allows an off-path attacker to infer if there's one client victim in the same network. Now see that there, victim client in the same network communicating with another host using TCP. The way I read the paper and watched the video, and actually they suggest that there are a number of devices that are vulnerable to this type of attack. The one thing that I didn't get immediately from that video, because I had to go and finally read up on the white paper, was that you have to be on the same network as the victim, which in your house, SEUSP, okay. When you're on the same network in someone's house, and that means you have guessed their username or their passwords, right? Their Wi-Fi passwords, meaning that you can do other more evil things than do things, like intercept their traffic or, do what the equivalent of ARP spoofing. And so I have multiple windows open, don't I? Yes. Or you can deauth attack them, get a handshake. Exactly. So it's a 20-minute video. I'm not going to watch the whole thing. There are closed captionings, which was helpful for some of the speaker because of the accent. If you're not used to the accent, and so they talk about the method by which they can get in here. The one thing I found was a bit light on content. I don't know. I go to security conferences. I hear people talking at in the past DerbyCon. I've been to B-Sides. They usually have a demo or something when they do this. This one was very much like a white paper kind of thing. It was like, I don't want to call it theoretical because they're probably actually able to do this, but it did require them to be on the same network as these folks. And they call it a new side channel vulnerability and NAT port preservation. So they say the experimental results show that 75% of networks are fully vulnerable to the attack. Depending on the protocol being used, in this case, I think they said HTTP, SSH, and FTP. They were able to de-auth and impersonate people. My whole life has been terrible accents, worse microphones, high-level computing solution videos. I'll live. Okay. All right. But anyway, so they went through a whole spiel of things here in this article, and they cited a number of routers which are vulnerable to this. But they did. Where was it? Where is it? Yeah. So our experiments consist of 4 types of devices: a router, a victim client, a remote server, and an attacker. So the remote server is going to be an SSH server, an FTP server, and then they said we picked VSFTP version 303. Now I don't know if that's the most up-to-date version. And they said for the injection attack, we picked a well-known finance website, www.anonymous.com. Okay, they must have, okay, that's not really the financial website. I think they blanked that because it can pretty much be any website, I think, that uses HTTP or has some kind of long-lived TCP connection that retrieves data every minute. So in this case, it would be like Yahoo Finance, something that gets updated on a semi-regular basis with a stock ticker or something like that that is constantly being updated, like this stuff over here. Or long-lived, it might have a video running on it that is 2 minutes and 35 seconds long. So this is constantly going to be streaming data to and from the site. In this case, though, I think on the white paper they were looking for one that was HTTP only. So they said the attack machine equipped with Linux 5.15.0, which is capable of crafting these packets. The attacker aims to forcibly close the client victim's SSH connection with the remote server, steal private files from the FTP server, or inject fake HTTP responses to the client by performing the attack. So yeah, the website that they have to go to has to be HTTP enabled, which I think if you listen to the video, they'd mention that, oh yeah, there's still 20% of the internet that is HTTP only. And I was like, okay, so maybe you can do it with SSH. Unfortunately, there's still FTP out there that people are using. I mean, even Libsyn, which is my podcast distribution system, uses FTP to update, which boggles. And then you have to find a site that does only HTTP that people will go to, and it has to have something that updates regularly over a stream. So there's a number of different, so we'll use case, we'll get the future index of stocks or whatever, HSI or HCSI. So they go through the discussion, but it basically it's very similar to spoofing, like ARP spoofing. You have to be on the same network segment as that person to de-auth them remotely from the server. I don't believe it ever mentioned if did it mention the SSH has to be remote? Hijacking FTP. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I don't know what well-known finance site does HTTP only. But yeah, it was an interesting discussion. I wouldn't call it revolutionary because ARP spoofing and de-auth attacks have been around for years. But there was other talks on this channel as well, so feel free to go look at them. they're on 3.05. Okay. Whoa, 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 whoa. But yeah, it was just interesting to see people talking about deauth attacks like they were some kind of revolutionary deal. So I'm going to have to go next year to see if this is like one of those academic things where people who aren't really in security or getting their CS degrees just put out a white paper and then it gets published and then they go talk. But they had a number of different talks on things. But yeah, the questions at the end, starting at about, I think, 17 minutes into that video, you could tell that people were kind of lost, or they were trying to get the speaker to come to some kind of like, how exactly do you go about doing that? And it was a little light on the discussion or the details on, you know, how exactly you're able to do that. And there was I think the last question from the speaker was like, oh yeah, you actually have to know the person's password to be able to get in. And I was like, okay. But there are legitimate companies out there that I wouldn't say quaking in their boots, but they looked through a bunch of different routers, TP-Link, Huawei. Some of these are Chinese based, which, you know, if you're using Huawei, you know, but there's Netgear, there's Asus, there's Linksys, some D-Link stuff, a couple I've never heard of, Volans, whatever, Aruba, or Ubiquiti, Meraki. Of course, some of these are not vulnerable. So anything with a green X is not vulnerable to this kind of attack. It's a weird tool to have in the bag, but if you're collecting weird tools, exactly. I mean, it's just another thing that you can do if, and the thing is, you're not attacking the router. You're not attacking the distant, well, you're attacking the distant end server. So yeah, you're attacking the website that can deauth that person, assuming you're stupid enough to deauth, you're authenticating on an HTTP site. There's somebody out there authenticating to an HTTP site. I can almost guarantee that, especially if they're using FTP to do so. But yeah, so Google Wi-Fi apparently is also vulnerable to this attack. pfSense 270, which this is the enterprise version, not the free version. So if you're using pfSense at home, which I know a lot of security people types like their pfSense servers, so might be something to look at here. But they mentioned, you know, they like, yeah, see, I don't know what site this is. They swear that it's HTTP only. It's it's a Hong Kong tech stock website, which means that people writing passwords in plain text on a notepad or leaving them on their desk. So, yeah, I don't have a problem with that if it's not in a public place. My office here, yeah, I might have a password here somewhere. You know, the only people, you know, 7 billion people don't have access to my house, right? Now, if I tilted my camera down on this, you know, and it's like, you know, password, you know, that kind of thing, that might be a problem. But, you know, I know that either my cats or my wife or my daughter have been in my office. So if you're working from home, it's not a problem, but it's those folks, to your point, that are in an open office space, people walking by, you've got a, you know, password taped to your monitor or something like that. Maybe a different issue, especially if it's not a work-related one. Yes, my cats are definitely nation-state actors, 100%. Yeah, you're a little too late to see Mama Kitty, but maybe she'll be back a little bit. But yeah, this looks like what's that? Hong Kong HK free stock. So let's see, HK. I can't type for shit. Oh yeah, here you go. Is it this site? Yeah. Okay, so they use this site, and I figured that out based on their screenshot. If you scroll in here. Yeah, service market quotes analysis news. Quote service market quotes analysis news. All right, so this is an HTTP only website that they use that is constantly getting updated by the system to pull data. So this is the site they used, aastocks.com, to do whatever it is they needed to do. They didn't do a very good job of obfuscating that in the article here, or the white paper. But yeah, so they said you can. This is the drawing the owl thing. A lot of it, my friends who've been analyzing this, it came up to be like step one, you must be on the local network of the person, which means you have to be within proximity of their site, of their house. So if you're sitting in my driveway, you're sitting down the street and you've got a strong enough antenna, then you have to crack the password to be able to join my network. Then once you're on my network, you're gonna gain access to things using DAuth attacks. So in this case, this kind of threat is very low for me. One, it requires adjacent or, being actually on premises. Requires me to be on an HTTP only site or using FTP, which I don't use either. I'm assuming they mean you can also do this with any other type of protocol other than SSH. If I was SSHing, then yeah, it might be useful to, gain access to that. Let's see, where was that? Duplicate. Scroll up here. Yeah, so this was the blog post that I think started a lot of this. They were, I think one of the authors had wrote here in June of, yesterday. Say, for instance, and hear me out, I've already gained access to a node on your network. How does this benefit me? Yeah, 100%. Okay, so let's say you've drawn the owl at this point and you're on my network. If the first thing you're going to do is start trying to de-auth me visiting an HTTP site or an FTP site, or if I SSH to a server on my local network, which you should already have, good night, fix it, thank you. I appreciate you, thank you, fix it. And if there was other ways to do de-authing attacks, if there was other protocols that they had used that might be a little more legitimate, like HTTPS, for instance. It takes a I guess this would work if you were doing it on a business node. If you were able to do this from the parking lot of some major corporation where they're doing SSH, they're going to insecure websites and logging in, or somebody still, for a fact that they're like still using FTP for things. One, you don't have to do much to, you don't have to de-auth people using FTP. You can just sniff the traffic and get their passwords. If you can collect that, there's no reason to de-auth them and gain, that kind of, what did they say they were doing with that once they gained access to the FTP? Inferring ports, getting sequence hack, finishing. FTP hijacking. What do you need to FTP hijack for? It's not encrypted. I mean, you can see the traffic going across using Wireshark or what have you. In practice, and I'm not admitting to anything here, home networks tend to be a little harder to take over in my experience. Yeah. Plus, I don't want to say there's a lot less traffic, but it's a lot more specific. You're going to have most of it's going to be HTTPS enabled. It's going to be, unless you're going to a person as a security professional or, who has SSH. I'm not saying this is not good research. I'm just saying it feels like it's incomplete. Like, show me why I should care. What's the impact here? They don't need to analyze FTP hijacking. There's nothing to hijack. You can do Wireshark and actually recreate whole files using Wireshark packet retrieval, sniffing the traffic in promiscuous mode if you had access to that stuff. It might be a little noisier, I'd imagine. You're going to be so here's the sequence. So what's this? So the yellow is the time of inferring the source port. Time of finishing the attack is very small. Success rate is fairly high. time of getting the sequence and ACK. So they're capturing the handshakes, or they're capturing the sequence and ACKs and syntax and the handshakes. I don't even give a shit about HTTP injection. I just don't. I don't go to any place that is a non-HTTP related website. I sure as hell wouldn't go to aastocks.com to do shit with. Can you even log in on this thing? Yeah. Oh my God, you can log in. Oh, okay. The login is HTTPS though. So yeah, okay. So there is an HTTPS site for AA stocks, but yeah. Whew. Okay. Good. Yeah, I wouldn't even know why they should automatically. This is the problem with this website. They should just automatically redirect to the HTTP website. Let me see if it allows you to. No, it doesn't allow you. So the front page here is HTTP only. Just because something is HTTPS doesn't mean it's saved by proxy. That okay. That is fair. According to this, it's got a lock though. Age. I mean, it's got a lock. It's signed by DigiCert. Let's see here. General standards compliance. Log on. Yeah, there's nothing that says they won't revert you back to the HTTP only website after they've logged in and share your cookies or share any kind of information about that. So yeah, they yeah. Plus, anything on the website that isn't completely HTTPS could leak or be used to leak anything on the back end or the post auth side. So let me close that. So yeah, this was the if I'm man in the middling, I'm ripping that info in line. What's certificate pinning? Ha ha ha. There's a fairly well-known company that doesn't use cert pinning because of the problems with denial of service if you get it wrong on one side of the cert pinning. Especially for things like if you're using it in devices or what have you. If you try to use cert pinning in a device, it's really hard to do things like push updates if the cert expires before you have a chance to run updates or create that trust mechanism between them so they don't, cert pinning is not necessarily a thing for a lot of use cases for a lot of orgs. It definitely has its place. It definitely has its use cases, but there are reasons you don't use cert pinning willy-nilly, or you shouldn't suggest it immediately as a thing, or as a hey, here's to solve your problem, use cert pinning, because again, in real world, using this could cause a bad UX user experience. We've observed that routers often employ port preservation strategies during NAT and lack reverse path valid. I don't even know what these words are. They're using words that let's see, reverse path validation. Loop free multicast. Doesn't stop anything. We bypassed it. Good God. Reverse path forwarding on virtual interfaces. Yeah, kernel RP filter settings. I think somebody had mentioned that on Hacker News. It was like, yeah, you can enable that, but by doing so, you can actually open yourself up to different attacks. So it's not easy to just go ahead and put in reverse path filtering. Duplicate. Where was it? So 74 comments. So yeah, they said the white paper detailing this 2022 32296. I was researching this earlier. It doesn't have an NA, or it has an NA for version 4, but it's a 3.3 for according to NVD, because the attack vector is low, complexity is low, or sorry, attack vector is local, so you have to be on the network. Attack complexity is low. Privilege required is low. There's a privilege though. You can't just sit in somebody's home or outside their house and do this. User interaction, of course, none. So I have no control over it. I can't see it. Scope is unchanged. And then your confidentiality is low. Integrity and availability is none. So somebody had mentioned fixed in, it has been fixed. So if you're on 5.17.9 and above, using a variant of DHPS is not a problem. You joke, Age. I get a lot of things because of my job, and if you ever see me at a conference, we'll have adult beverage, and we'll talk about that. We get tickets about issues all the time, and the people that submit these tickets, they're like, yeah, this is critical, it's the worst thing ever, you're going to get owned, whatever. And you look at these tickets, you're like, yeah, you have to be in the bushes near my house, already on my Wi-Fi network, like this one. If we had gotten this, if this had affected us and had had been something we were worried about, this would not have been something that we would have been overly worried about. You have to be on somebody's network. You have to be within proximity of their house or within proximity of the business. You have to have already gotten a password on the Wi-Fi connection to be able to log in. So it's almost like, yeah, you have to be, to do this, you have to be root anyway. Why the fuck are you going to worry about doing this thing when you already have root, right? So yeah, this is might not even update at best. You're right. And so yeah, this is one of those things where the threat model's like, yeah, they went and spoke at a conference for this thing, but is it really that big a deal? It's interesting work. I'm sure if they could figure out some other way of doing this, deauthing HTTPS might be something. If they could figure out how to deauth the remote side and get, on your local network, if you're watching Netflix or something and you've gotten, streaming Netflix that way, that might be something. The other thing I like to do when I'm doing threat modeling is, can you do it at scale, right? If it's a service that, these people are going to deauth me if I go to HTTP, //aastocks.com. Great, they're going to own one person. If you have, yes, it affects that one person. The impact is high for that one person, but if you can't do it to the whole neighborhood, if you can't do it to everybody who uses the service, and you have to do it individually every time, then it's not a high or a critical issue, right? It isn't a high impact for one person or a small group of people potentially, but sometimes we don't think about that with our threat models. Like, oh, it's critical. It's definitely critical. We got to get this thing fixed. Well, how many does it affect? Sometimes we forget about impact when we're doing things like threat modeling. Are IoT locks insecure? They may be. What's the impact? It affects one person, or it affects a handful of people. If everybody in the neighborhood uses the same lock, they're all vulnerable to the same thing. Yeah, in the microcosm, those 10 to 15 houses are subject to problems. Is that on the face of the earth a huge issue? It's not a huge issue to everybody on the face of the earth necessarily. It is to those certain people. And it depends on what you care about. Do you care about the individual experience? Are you worried about the negative press coming from, and I think there was something similar where people will post up things on Twitter about, hey, somebody stole they stole a package on my steps, but my camera didn't see it or something like that. That's a high impact for somebody. Camera may not have picked it up because of the motion sensor, or may not have picked it up because the lens was dirty, or, it's not, trying to figure those things out. It's not affecting a large amount of people. Now, if we started getting a ton of things in about, hey, this litter box sensor, for instance, started, going haywire across, 100,000 people. Your litter box cleaning as a service is down because they've all spontaneously disconnected from the service. That's a critical issue. It affects a vast number of people. So, interview question: what's the difference between a vuln, a risk, and a threat? Yeah, yeah. What I love is risks that are realized because they're not risks anymore. Um, yeah, exactly. Some people would say they're all kind of the same thing, right? Except a vuln is potentially something that's already been demonstrated. But yeah, it's interesting. Um, so wait, Age, how would you answer that question if somebody gave it to you? Which one do you hold in higher esteem, the threat, the risk, or the vuln? Because it seems like the threat is more from the attacker side, the risk is more from the defender side of can this happen to us versus the attacker, who is the threat. How much are they a threat? How much risk are you willing to take on? And then you've got vulnerability, which is we know we're vulnerable. We're just waiting for that risk to be realized. At least that's how I would kind of answer that question. Maybe that's why I wouldn't get a job with you. So the risk is the intersection where threats and vulns live. Wow, that's way better than I said it. Damn. That's nice though. That's nice. I like that. That's real good. It's real good. So Age, I want to get to. Well, yeah, I'd hire you too. So one of the other things that came up was I was on Hacker News because I was looking at this story here about this. One last thing, they said you can enable the RP filters if you have the proper kernel, or you can use an insist kernel. The problem is enabling or disabling, whichever you do for the RP filter stuff, will actually put you in a potential for more different kinds of attacks, TCP related. Allows for more hole punching techniques since you can basically maintain a TCP connection indefinitely and access network connectivity changes. So there's also the control you put into place to fix this can open you up to additional risk later. So it's really weird. So yeah. So Reflex had mentioned that maybe I'm missing something, but while it is interesting, it doesn't have any real security impact since the threat models, the attacker and the victim are on the same network, same Wi-Fi, not isolated. In a case where you're using Wi-Fi in PSK, for example, the attacker can already sniff everything from other clients. You'd have to assess what your assets are to make a real decision there. Yeah, and some people will just blindly add this because they think, well, I can solve this problem, but by solving this problem, you've opened up another hole, which might actually be more severe for you than it would be if you left this one and said, yeah, it's a 3.3. We're going to accept that as a problem. If they get on our network, we've got bigger problems by the fact that they're on our network already. We've got 8,000 unpatched Windows boxes. They're going to be able to laterally move through this shit, no problem. We got network shares out the ass. We're probably going to be ransomware because our network is flat, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, sniffing a little traffic for HTTP, FTP, or SSH is probably the least of their worries at this point. Once they got a foothold into a Windows or a Linux box that's been unpatched, it's all over. So, I don't know if I added this, but I will go ahead and add this Hacker News article discussion as well. But yeah, so okay, so to get back to what I was talking about, I was on here looking around, and I saw this interesting thing, and it was like, billiard, generate music from ball collisions in 2D space. First thing I thought of was, wow, that sounds kind of painful, ball collisions in 2D space. But I found this, and it's interesting. So I'm going to try to turn the volume down so it's not just completely awful here. Oh wait, I put it on. Damn. Okay, so I'm an idiot. Let me see. Firefox audio capture. There we go. Firefox audio capture. I'm going to turn this down a little bit, but it's interesting. Okay, and I will unmute it. If it's too loud, let me know. I don't know how to make music for shit, but this was kind of cool. And you can move it around. So like you can click on one and move it around, and depending on where you place it, it has a different, get away from my ball. Stop touching my ball. But where you put it has a different pitch or different sound. So like B4. And I mean, it sounds like, you know, I just thought it was cool. And then I saw you on the stream and I was like, oh, I can make music. I definitely wouldn't use it for background music, but it was kind of cool. And for some reason they have a gray ball up here, which doesn't do anything. So sometimes once it gets picked, I don't know how you can fix it, but I don't know if it's a bug in the code or what have you. But and also they have an option for a MIDI output if you wanted to have it. And the other thing that they had was like you can leave them stationary, so when the balls hit, then they won't change. So you can actually put notes, like if you had specific notes in certain places, like if I wanted to. Yeah, so this one is C4, I think. Yeah, so you can actually, you know, leave them stationary if you want to. Synesthesia, yeah, where you smell colors or hear colors, or, you know, like your, I don't want to say the wiring is messed up in your head, but it's like you see things or you visualize things in a different way is the way I understood it. I mean, it would be interesting to see that happen, but I just had this running for about 20-25 minutes today. I was just letting it just play in the background, and you know, I thought, oh, maybe I could put 2 of them on so it would, like, you know, go, you know, all over the place, because you can affect the gravity, so you can make them all go, you know, they'll all go up, or you can make them all just sink to the bottom. Just something to, you know, be. And see color, yeah, colors when they see music, yeah. So, but yeah, I just thought that was kind of cool. It's not information security related, but I just thought it was kind of interesting. What I was thinking about was maybe you could figure out a way to actually make music with this based on like the distance the balls would move. So I was thinking about maybe how you might, you know, corral a ball up here in the corner and just have it continuously bounce on, you know, one of them in a certain pitch or rhythm or something like that. You know, I'm sure it's not perfect in that case, but you could, you know, wrangle the ball up here. I can move this ball. I can move it. I can't move that ball. At some point, a ball will get trapped up here, or you know, you can stop a ball in mid-flight or whatever. I was just, you know, thought that was kind of cool. And you can lock them in place. The one thing I haven't figured out yet is this is B3. This one is G2. So I don't know if there's like a visible lines on the screen where you're seeing the lines and the lines and the spaces, but yeah, and you know, if you could change it so that it was like maybe drums, or, you know, would add like a horn or something like that, that might be fun too. There's definitely it looks like there's a MIDI output. So if you have a MIDI kind of insert, it would also do some MIDI output as well. So, but there's a lot of options. You can actually do chords. You can just do simple notes instead of chord movements. But yeah, all right. So enough of that. Yeah, I was, and I don't know how they're doing it, if it's JavaScript or what it was, but it was in the browser. So I'm assuming it's some sort of JavaScript or some sort of controls like that. It was just cool that you could create something like that. Yeah. So warm cookies. I saw this on Dark Reading. They say this is a tailored lure, and it's poised to evolve into a bigger threat. So it's a purpose-built Windows backdoor. And then it appears to be the new flavor of the month for giving attackers entry into targeted systems after initial access. Then they pivot to things like ransomware delivery or system compromise in a wave of recent attacks. And they called it Warm Cookie by the Elastic security folk. Been distributed widely in phishing emails. the lowest of the low, of course, they're using things like recruitment and potential jobs as lures. Hey, I'm a recruiter, got an excellent, opportunity for you. Click on this PDF or click on this thing or go to this website and get these things. So you got a shit bag that is preying on people who may be looking for a job and will click on anything that might be a lead for them to be able to do so. So these shitbirds are, doing people wrong, but you would think they would want to go after whales and people with a lot to lose instead of people who probably don't have a ton of money, but I guess they'll any port in a storm. So yeah, they talk about here's an email with a link. It's a redirector to a compromised site with a landing page. The JavaScript, runs a PowerShell script, and then it downloads or it will grab the warm cookie, and then now you've got command and control. Fairly standard method by which they do this. This research includes an IDA Python script to decrypt strings from warm cookie, and it provides, and the tool also provides, if you have elastic security, didn't know elastic security, this is not the same as Elasticsearch, right? It's just different. It's different, maybe. So they say, yeah, here's your fish. So you get, 2 from current employer because they found your current employer on LinkedIn because you advertise where you work or where you worked at one point. Exciting job offer to share with you, a new position available in one of our esteemed clients, given your outstanding professional background, blah, 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 blah. At Spirient, well, they didn't block out that right there. So I'm wondering if Spirient is jacqueinteriors.com.au. Okay. The subject is we're interested, but it could be anything like new job offer or, hey, I'd like to headhunt you or something like that. Oh, my bad. There you go. They're prompted to download a document by solving a CAPTCHA. The landing page resembles previous campaigns documented by Google Cloud Security Team with a new variant of URSNF. Banking fraud. Okay, so there's that link there. It's one of the oldest banking malware families still active today. Okay, so URSNF is ancient, 2016. Ancient is 2016, folks. I guess in the malware world it could be. So yeah, once the capture is solved, the obfuscated JavaScript file is downloaded from the page. Our sample was named update.js. However, other samples use a different but similar naming structure. The script runs PowerShell, kicking off the first task to load warm cookie. So you get a terminated process of WScript because it's run in the browser, right? Fairly fast, 3 seconds to run the PowerShell script, but then half a millisecond roughly, and then 17 seconds. That's a little rough. So it sits around for 17 seconds, then terminates PowerShell.exe and runs conn host, which is very similar to conn, C-O-N-N host, which is a legitimate, more legit, oh, conhost.exe, is this a virus? Yes, you've been owned. Sorry there, Memodo PvP, you've been owned. Maybe something else. Yeah, interesting. But yeah, so you go look at your warm cookie. Oh, wrong thing. There we go. All right. So yeah, here's your PowerShell script. That one looks pretty good. So import module bits transfer, right. Temp, random file name, bits transfer source. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Just wanted to make sure I didn't get any messages. Leveraging IO ScanWees. Hey, Digital Warhead. Welcome back. Welcome back. Yeah, you were on earlier. Okay. I thought I'd remembered you were on earlier. So So yeah, I mean, we observed threat actors generating new landing pages rapidly on 45.9.74.135. Actor push target different recruiting firms in combination with keywords related to the job search industry. Before hitting each landing page, adversary distances itself by using compromised infrastructure. Okay, so it doesn't want you to know who the bad guy is, so it's using already compromised stuff. That way, it's like I don't want to say crime syndicates, but the money mules that you get or you hear about. It's like, the money mule doesn't know where the money's going to, but if you arrest the money mule, then you've lost the trace, right? You can't figure out where they're going to, or this person doesn't know this person doesn't know this person in the chain. Cool. Oh, that's okay, Digital Word. I'm glad you're back. Threat actor generates new domains while the reputation catches up with each domain after each campaign run. So it's staying ahead of the reputation hits. So, when, findnewjobs.top or whatever, starts getting crappy, then it's like, find new jobs 1.top, .2, just to give you an example, to stay ahead of that there. And I'm certain they have hundreds of these things generated already, so it automatically looks, hey, this one's three months old, and it's like, okay, it's going to take a few days for this one to get shitty, and then they can build them up, so they have thousands and thousands and thousands of dynamically generated algorithm domains that are being done. My question is, where are they doing the CA for this, or where are they doing the domain registration for this? Is it in Russia? Is it in places that are very nice and they'll take your money and they don't want any questions asked or anything like that? Because it seems like it would be easy. Seems like it would be easy to go, okay, this person's registered 15,000 new domains this month alone, and it's like, okay, maybe we should look into that, follow that money trail, figure out who's bankrolling that. Oh, it's a malware artist. Of course, there's probably less than legit organizations out there that will take the money and not give a shit, or maybe it's a privacy thing. But yeah, so warmcookies, interesting write-up. Talks about different DLLs that it uses, along with being able to run system privileges from task schedulers. So there's some detections there in the task scheduler engine. You've got your PowerShell here, no logo, no profile, run DLL 32.exe to app local temp. There's a .qla file, so it's probably some kind of there we go. Oh, you just click on it too. So there's a Q1A file, not a QLA file. And then task engineering. Now you have system. Once you have system, it's over. And then they own your box, right? Program RTL update.dll. And that's the C2 stuff, I'd imagine. Real-time update. So persistence, right? The critical part of the infection comes from the scheduled task, which is set up at the very beginning of the infection. RTL update is scheduled to run 10 minutes every day. So it would be interesting if you could actually find that and kill that, or would it come back if it disappeared? Like if there's some kind of check, hey, it's not available. Oh, my wife turned on Yacht Rock. If you deleted it from scheduled tasks, would it come back? That's a good question. I don't know. Second stage is where the DLL combined with the command line contains a core functionality of warmcookie. The malware starts by looking for DLLs inside temp directory for the PowerShell download. So I have IoT devices in my house, including a Google Home screen downstairs. So when she turned on the music downstairs, it shows up on my phone. I'm not mean enough to mess with her by just pausing it or whatever. I know it's Yacht Rock because that's what she likes to listen to. But yeah, I just saw the notification. I was checking to make sure that we weren't going out to eat or anything like that, because it's 4:30 and I haven't, been told of anything. So I'll tell her you said hello, Age. I'll tell her you said hello. Obfuscation, so warm cookie protects data using a custom string decryption algorithm. The first 4 bytes of each encrypted string in the R data section represents size. The next 4 bytes represents the RC4 key. Interesting, RC4. And the remaining bytes represent the string. So yeah, there's the data. Below is a Cyber Chef recipe using the bytes from the screenshot above. Output is C:\\. Okay. Okay. One interesting observation is the malware developer doesn't always. I would say you can rewrite that. I don't like doesn't always. One interesting observation is that the malware developer does not rotate the keys between encrypt. I'm dwelling on something I shouldn't. So yeah, I mean, it's a long discussion. There's obviously a lot of screenshots, and they talk about the various execution bits. Yeah. Oh, see, now in this case, maybe that previous vulnerability that we're talking about might be useful. They communicate over HTTP with a hard-coded IP address. So that's interesting. You could, deauth. You could deauth a user who's using HTTP on that. That's pretty funny. Family uses a combination of RC4 and base64 to protect network traffic. Interesting. Fun fact, maybe you already know, but CyberChef was developed and maintained by GCHQ. I think I heard that somewhere. Also, I would be worried about using the public version. You can build your own version offline or download it and use it offline. I wouldn't just randomly put in things like password hashes or MD5 hash checks or something like that. Anything that might be of a secret nature, or you're trying to decrypt, a base 64 encoded message that might be sensitive nature. Maybe you don't want to put that into the CyberChef that's public. You can run it locally, so you should definitely think about running it locally if you can. If you're concerned about security, or if you're concerned about the information that's being passed and being put there. I'm not saying GCHQ is going to take all your shit. I'm just saying, like with most systems, when you're uploading secrets, then you have to understand or figure out where that data is not being stored or being stored, like in logs or things like that. You can't always assume that they're, getting rid of those things when they're done. So, yeah. So let me see, what else? What else can we talk about? Oh, that's warm cookies. This is the elastic dipping into danger. Oh, by the way, Digital, thank you so much for being a supporter. I appreciate you, man. You've gone, 85 months now or something? 27 months, sorry. 27 months as a subscriber. I just saw your star and I was like, oh yeah, you're one of the long-term folks, so I appreciate you. Now, the Guardian is the Guardian, so, take that with a grain of salt. I did see this from Meredith Whittaker, and actually, the interesting, Meredith Whittaker was one of the keynotes at NDSS this year. So, where is it? View all. Now, I think she was the keynote for 2024. Workshop, symposium. They had a vehicle sec track. There's quite a bit of, they had a CAN bus discussion on here too. So I'm not saying that, they have, quality issues, because I kind of wondered why the networking one that we talked about at length was accepted by NDSS. They have a ton of talks that they talked about, towards precise reporting of cryptographic miscues. They had one that I saw about fuzzing and some, how you can tell something is the way it is by the way it shows up in the fuzzing algorithm. So there's a number of different things here in this list, but I think she was the keynote for 2024. I just can't find that right now. But anyway, I did kind of agree with some of the things that she mentioned here about encryption being threatening to power, in this case, government organizations or what have you. yeah, so she took over development of Signal and came on the board as the role of president in 2022. And then she started having to defend Signal from nation states and companies around the world that were attacking Signal. And then, legislation, in my opinion, nation states and companies attacking Signal won't be what kills Signal. It'll be legislation that has to weaken encryption, because we have to, be able to intercept or, make it easier for folks like law enforcement to have access to encryption or, messages or evidence, because it would just be easier to have access to those things. Yeah, so let me see, where did she say? Yeah, surveillance is a disease from the very beginning of the internet. The encryption is deeply threatening to the type of power that constitutes itself via information asymmetries, all of which means she doesn't expect the fight to end anytime soon. Right. And various examples will be used to, continue to justify things like Signal or end-to-end encryption mechanisms to be weakened, because we can't get to the information we need to, convict the bad guys. And fortunately, that's just one of the problems. Yeah, any criticisms of encrypted comms, it's a godsend for criminals, terrorists, pedophiles, folks dealing with content that is of a unsavory nature. And so, yeah. It was a good article. I don't think it reads like an opinion piece, but it turns out when you search India, yes, digital, they don't do a very good job of search engine optimization. Or it could be that the National Down Syndrome Society is the more popular version of NDSS. I thought I'll put that link here in the notes if you want to go get that. And it's the ndsssymposium.org for the article. There we go. Yeah, so they are in the San Diego area, like I said, and they did one in 2024. You can submit talks to them. I don't think they have to be academic white papers, but yeah, it's just another conference. I would be interested in going next year because it's local, but the other thing would be I'd just like to see what the quality of the talks are. Maybe I'll listen to a couple of more talks on that and see if they're light on content, or if they're just people who publish their white papers and they wanted to have an outlet for those. So, oh yeah. Is there anything interesting here on, I made an open source and local translation app. Art Translator is the world's first open source real-time translation app. Okay. Almost. Can't just be almost. It's either almost or. Okay, so the Bluetooth communicator is open source. MI toolkit is used for identification of language in walkie-talkie mode. NLLB, open source, but for non-commercial use only. What's it? Neuro-linguistic language. NLLB. Oh, it was created by Facebook Research. No language left behind. Okay, so that's NLLB. AI breakthrough project, open sources models capable of delivering high-quality translations directly between any pair of 200 plus languages, including low resource languages like Asturian, wow, Urdu, and more. Okay, Luganda. I think I want to say that's what that is. Yeah. By the way, if you're interested in ML and AI stuff, our Discord has been fairly active recently with Operator and Lady P talking about various models that they've been playing with and working on. So if you're interested in, finding out more about things like DeepSeek and what was the other one? I don't know what that is. Where is it? OpenRouter.ai, those things. Yeah, the 7B model from, let's see, where is it? Oh, Llama 3, that kind of stuff. Yeah, go check out the Discord. Go chat them up. Operator, maybe I'll have Operator on. We can talk about some LLM stuff. We can do some discussions and get Lady P back involved with some of the ML stuff. I know she's been doing a lot of work with that just because by dint of her having a lot of access to technology. So if you're interested, come join and ask your questions of Operator and Lady P. I almost feels like I need to have a separate AI and LLM, channel for that, but it is what it is. So, yeah, cool. All right. How do you stay alive in an office job? So this was actually when it rains it pours, right? So this is a different Wi-Fi vulnerability. And okay, so when we started talking about one or the other at work, I kind of got confused because I was like, oh, is it this one? Because the only thing that I saw was, hey, Microsoft says this is Terra bad. You should probably fix your shit now. And I was like, oh, great. Another, yeah, here it is. Urgent Windows security flaw lets hackers infect your PC over Wi-Fi. There's not a lot of information. And this is yet another Wi-Fi problem. And so according to the V3 of CVSS, it's an 8.8, which means you have to be adjacent. The attack vector is adjacent, so you have to be within the vicinity of the attack. So, I have Wi-Fi running on my laptop right now. That's what I'm using to stream my stream here. Somebody's sitting in my driveway, not necessarily on my network, but can do things that would basically own up my Wi-Fi driver. They don't say which Wi-Fi driver. There's a lot of interesting information that is missing from this article, and even the Microsoft discussion is a bit mum on what that means. I haven't gotten any updates yet since Patch Tuesday. This was published on the 11th or 13th, which I believe was after Patch Tuesday. Yeah, 11th, and modified on the 13th. So it may have come out on Patch Tuesday, but I guess, run your patches for the month, but there was very few amounts of information on here. They often use malicious documents or pirated software as a means of getting their malware onto your devices, but a new Windows flaw. So that means they make it sound like it's not a chipset issue. It's not like a MediaTek or an Atheros or an Intel or a Broadcom or what have you kind of issue. It's something in the Windows side of it, because like with most Wi-Fi chips, if you've heard this and this is nothing new, I apologize, but you have OEM drivers. You have your Qualcomms, your Broadcoms, your Intels, your Atheros, Raylink, Intel. I may have mentioned Intel already, but they all come with chips. They all have firmware on them. They all have drivers that they usually give the OEMs, or not the OEMs, but the manufacturers of devices. So Wi-Fi routers, operating systems, they get these drivers. They're just an executable, like for, driver.exe. Usually there's heavy legal requirements where you don't reverse engineer, you don't decompile, you don't do shit. And with folks like Microsoft and Apple, and to a lesser extent Linux, Windows will be like, okay, it's cool. And then it's like, we send you, it's like this driver is just sitting there, kind of like a plus minus kind of thing, where it takes in information, it does magic, and then it makes the back end do stuff. And in this case, I'm wondering if there's some kind of middleware or something that Microsoft uses to communicate with this, like the hardware abstraction layer or something, that it sends information to the hardware abstraction layer, which communicates to the wireless driver, chipset, and RCE. I don't know. I don't know. It's interesting though. I used to use OpenBSD quite a bit, and they were all about their open drivers to the point where it was like they had to have clean room implementation of those drivers, and it takes a long time to make an open source driver. They created Nouveau, which was a fully open source NVIDIA driver before even Linux had it. But the idea is you basically, the way they were doing it when they were doing the driver stuff back in the day for like Nouveau and some of the other wireless chipsets, is one person would basically do something on one side of the room, and then the other person would be completely isolated on the other side of the room. And, based on the input that this person gave this person across the way, they were able to, engineer a driver. But yeah, there was scant information on both NVD and the update side here. And I don't like this because this was shitty. Tom's guide, you have a godirectingat.com link to be able to go to freaking Microsoft's website, the MSRC Microsoft.com site. A copy link. And it felt real shitty. I didn't know Tom had started doing that stuff. So let me see. Pull all that shite off, and then pull all that shite off. There you go. Yeah, so there's not a lot of information here. Improper input validation. So, take it what you will. The input that has been given to Microsoft does something to allow for RCE on the box. So I don't know if the input is coming from the Wi-Fi driver itself and being misinterpreted by Windows, or the input from Windows going to the wireless driver is making it so you can get RCE on the box. I don't know what that means in this case. But yeah, it was just interesting to see this article come out, and for some reason they don't want to mention what exactly it is. So there may be an NDA or legal requirement to not do so, which led me to believe there might have been a driver issue in this case. So looks like it might have been in the monthly updates, I think. So if you have a chance to run your Patch Tuesdays this month and you're using Wi-Fi, do so. But yeah, here's the link in case you go to Tom's Hardware and you end up with that shitty blocked link thing. Yeah, Microsoft confirmed no special obligations are needed to exploit this flaw except for the hacker to be close to a target and on the same Wi-Fi network. They also don't need to be authenticated, or do they need any access to settings or files on a victim's PC. To make matters worse, the exploit for this Wi-Fi flaw does not require any interaction from the potential victim at all. It means that the users don't need to click on a link in a phishing email or download an attachment. So, yeah, I guess patch your stuff. So, but yeah, I mean, just a lot of Wi-Fi vulnerabilities in the last couple of days. So, yeah. So, let me see what else. Oh, so some good news. Some good news. I know that I haven't been talking about a lot of good news, but Microsoft and Google, I think we talked a little bit about the $200 million is being earmarked for K through 12 and for hospital systems to be able to bolster their cybersecurity. Now, I don't know why hospital systems need part of that $200 million, because most hospital systems make a fuck ton of money, unless it's like rural kind of stuff, which don't make a fuck ton of money. Let me grab that one from the blue team. April Murdoch, one of our good friends, who's been discussing, where is it? There it is. Had posted up some stuff about Microsoft 365 for education accounts, and that got me reminded about the White House offering discounted security solutions to rural hospitals And they're also working with earmarking money for $200 million for K through 12. So for those of you outside the U.S., that's all the elementary and post-secondary education schools here that we have. Yeah, $200 million for K-12 schools, library, and cybersecurity pilots. So they voted to approve $200 million 3-year deep dive into studying the best security practices. And I hope to God it's not going to cost them $200 million to figure out best practices and equipment options for K-12 and libraries. $200 million for, ooh. That's dinner. Okay. Yeah, the GAO, so our Government Accountability Office, needs to keep an eye on that $200 million, because it's going to take them $200 million to figure out, best practices for security for K-12 schools and libraries. That is a waste of about $199.9 million there. We will allow the Commission to obtain actionable data about which cybersecurity services and equipment would best help K through 12 schools and libraries address the growing cyber threats and attacks against their broadband networks. K through 12 schools and libraries are probably the most hostile network in the world, because not only do you have to deal with the nation-state actors, you also have to deal with your own users who don't like what you're doing, and those kids can hack the shit out of anything with a good YouTube video. So as we heard from April when we interviewed her, yeah, it's, you've got kids bypassing security controls on your, locked down laptops because you have physical access to a box. So, most of the time it's game over anyway, right? So these were some of the things that she had said that the K-12-6, which is the ISAC that we talked about, Doug Levine and them, that we had on almost 2 years ago. These are some of the best practices and controls for, mitigating a compromised M365 account or Google Workspace account. She posted this to our Slack, but I'll post it up here as well if you want it. It makes a lot of sense for a lot of it, including, sometimes you just need to isolate and, disable that user's account, regardless of who they are, to reduce the chances of lateral movement or what have you. Isolate, reset password immediately, revoke sessions, suspend account or elevated privileges, preserve evidence, obviously, for the investigation later on. Review sign-in logs, scrutinize mailbox activity, inspect file activity and shares, check for unauthorized or suspicious apps or APIs, check for unauthorized accounts or group additions. So some of those are going to be logs too. Some of these logs you may not get unless you're at higher levels of your M365 subscriptions. Quarantine sent malicious emails, reverse suspicious mailbox changes, remove, revoke unauthorized file shares or apps. So a lot of this is going to require a little bit of forensic knowledge, a little bit of how you would go in to understand how to figure out what was done. And I guess it would depend on the amount of time. If it's been 12 hours, you might have to do everything under the sun to see what activity's been done on that account. Whereas if it was 15, 20 minutes, you may be able to go, okay, they were only able to do a certain amount of things. It's going to take them half an hour to be able to do this thing, or, hey, we got an email saying to do this fix. We haven't done it yet, that kind of thing. Scanning for malware, of course, continue monitoring for activity. So this is great. Isolate, investigate, remediate, communicate, reevaluate. What is that? Pickerel, P-I-C-E-R-L? Very similar. Incident response worksheet. Yeah. Preparation, identification, containment, eradication, recovery, lessons learned. So they forgot the preparation part, but they have identification, right? Identification. Well, actually, they've kind of probably merged these in. So containment would be isolate. You have investigate. So isolate would be part of containment. Eradication and containment, they kind of split those out. Remediate, that would be part of the eradicate function. Let me see, you'd have communicate, would be alert and educate affected users, report internal leadership, notify any potentially affected third parties, IOCs with K-12-6 or other threat intel sharing groups, and notify law enforcement. That's pretty good. Let me see, where would you put that at? Did I have that in here? See, it's interesting because they're communicating while the IR is going on, which might be something like, in the preparation, you need to know your people and your policies, who you're going to contact. The comms plan right here is in preparation. So some of this assumes you already have a communications plan in place for your incident response if you're in education. If you don't have a comms plan in place, you should probably have one before you got to level 4 here on your communications. And then reevaluate is going to be like your lessons learned, or return to operations, or return to whatever the new normal is going to be, because you're never going to get back to whatever the new you're not going to go back to what it was before, because that's how you got owned in the first place, right? So lessons learned would be review and enhance policies, incident response plans, IT practices. So yeah, lessons learned basically. So act with urgency, document your work, preserve evidence, right? If you can, make backups, or, disable that machine, give them a brand new laptop, allow that to be running, immediately reset any passwords that might have been done for the compromised account. Might be that IT sets the password so that, the new user doesn't, share that account, or until they can figure that out too. Revoke any sessions like terminal services, remote logins, and if they're an admin, you're going to have to go the extra mile. So it'll depend on what role the person had in the organization, if they're a regular user or if they're an admin, kind of thing. Suspending accounts. So this is a nice document. It's not pick-roll, but it works, I think, for what the ISAC is looking for here. It does suggest that you need to have some plan. You probably do need to have a plan in place, like your comms plan. You have an IR plan. If you don't have one, this is a good one to start with. But yeah, right. Be aware some steps may change based on your license or configuration. Might actually go up in cost if you need access to logs or something like that. I don't know how much E5, whatever the most expensive one is, gives you access to all your cloud logs. But depending on what your M365 level is, it may cost you a little bit extra money to be able to log all the things, or to be able to access everything that's in there. I don't know what the pricing levels are for Google Workspace, but I know a lot of schools use Google Workspace. My daughter's old school used to use Google Workspace quite a bit. But yeah, so go take a look and see what K612 and what our friend April Modoc and them suggest for that. They have an Essentials series here, so yeah. So I mean, we're getting back into the new school year, so there's CISA adds 3 known exploited vulnerabilities to the catalog. CISA releases 20 industrial control system advisories. Wow, phone scammers impersonating CISA employees. Well, that's next level, isn't it? Okay. But yeah, you can go check out the Essential series, and even if you're not in the K6 or the education space, or the EduSec space, it'll give you an idea as to what maybe some ideas on what you can do to make your organization safer. So, but yeah, so. Let me see, where was that? No, it was the free thing, right? There it is. So for rural hospitals, and I've been to a few rural hospitals, they don't make a ton of money. And when given the choice of upgrading IT stuff, they're going to go with whatever the most cost-effective option is, which is obviously to stay with Windows 2000 instead of upgrading to XP. I'm just kind of joking, but it is what it is. So because they are, yes, they are a wealth of information and a wealth of wealth for people who are doing ransomware attacks, compromising sensitive patient data, disrupting essential hospital services, putting lives in risk. Even though there are controls at hospitals to go back to what they consider paper copies, most everything's in an EMR now, so you would lose access to maybe knowing what the last dosage or when the last dosage was given to a patient. So they're working with Microsoft and Google to offer up to 75% discount or even free cybersecurity solutions to rural hospitals. I'm assuming they have to meet some kind of criteria, like you can't be making $100 million a year or something like that. So yeah, some of these hospitals, it's like, I think we've seen a couple of hospitals have to close down permanently because they couldn't recover from that, which is awful for some of the organizations where you might have to drive an hour or more just to go to a hospital in a rural area. So having that possibility, so Microsoft will extend nonprofit pricing to access to critical access hospitals and rural emergency hospitals. Significant discounts up to 75% on security products designed for smaller organizations. So they can get like an E5 license, or they can get Microsoft Exchange, for Windows Windows products or anything like that for cheaper. That's that would give more impetus for the hospital to go, yeah, we probably should upgrade our shit instead of staying on Windows 7 or whatever version everybody has there. So. And Microsoft is going to participate in hospitals for free cybersecurity assessments conducted by qualified technology security providers. The assessments will help hospitals identify security gaps and prioritize areas for improvement. That's kind of what I was doing when I worked at Synergistic for those times. I would go in for HIPAA assessments, but I mean, it was very similar. You asked questions, you figured out what their network looked like. We did Wi-Fi assessments. We did camera coverage assessments. Yeah, we did security like that. So that's kind of awesome. TechSpark program. Okay. So yeah, some good news there for rural hospitals. Hopefully they'll take advantage of that. Hopefully they'll be communicating that to people, and yeah, we'll see what comes of that. I hope that rural hospitals that are out, and they're the only hospital for 50 to 60 miles away, the only ER or something in that area, that they'll be able to take advantage of that. So I can smell dinner, and I'm hungry. So I ran my 3K today, and I want to go and see if anybody's online. Twitch TV break sec. That's me. Well, there's nobody on right now. Okay. Well, I will just let it go then. Let me see. Free BSD hacking, some sort of, let me see what this is. Interesting. Somebody's getting into the deep knowledge on free BSD. Okay. We'll see if the person will accept raids. Swill6. I do not know this person, so caveat emptor or whatever. But yeah, I hope everyone has a good day. I'll try to be on Friday before I leave for Dublin. Otherwise, have a great day. Thanks, Age of Music. Thanks, Digital Warhead. Thanks for everybody for being on. Fix it, and have a great rest of your day. Later, y'all.